Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the First Unitarian Society of Milwaukee's online worship service. I'm Reverend Dina McFeeters, and I'm honored to serve as Associate Minister at First Unitarian Society of Milwaukee. We welcome people of all genders, sexualities, ages, races, ethnicities, histories, and bodies. We welcome your mind, your heart, and your spirit. We welcome all that you are bringing with you today and all that your heart longs to set down. I am honored to welcome and introduce our pulpit guest today, the Reverend Manish Mishra Marzetti. Reverend Mishra Marzetti serves as Senior Minister of the First Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Ann Arbor, Michigan. He is co-editor of a newly released Skinner House anthology of prayers, Conversations with the Sacred. He is also co-editor with our senior minister, Reverend Jennifer Nordstrom, of the 2018-2019 UUA Common Read, Justice on Earth, People of Faith Working at the Intersections of Race, Class, and the Environment. He has served extensively in Unitarian Universalist leadership, including as a member of the UUA Board of Trustees, president of DRUM, which stands for Diverse and Revolutionary Unitarian Universalist Multicultural Ministries, commissioner on the UUA Commission on Appraisal, secretary of the board of Star King School for the Ministry, and as an author and advocate of the 2007 General Assembly resolution confronting gender identity-related discrimination. He brings to the ministry his multicultural experience serving as a U.S. diplomat during the Clinton administration. Reverend Mishra Marzetti, we are delighted that you can be with us today. We look forward to strengthening our connection with you and between our congregations. Finally, I welcome all of us to our worship service by inviting everyone to repeat our mission after me. We gather to nurture the spirit, engage the mind, and inspire action.
Welcome to all the members and friends of the First Unitarian Society of Milwaukee. I'm the Reverend Manish Mishra Marzetti. I serve as Senior Minister of the First Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Ann Arbor. It is my privilege and delight to be a guest with you this morning and to bring with me greetings from all your siblings in faith in nearby Michigan. As we move more deeply into this time together, I invite you now to find a place of centering and stillness in your hearts as we hear these words by the Reverend Richard Gilbert, entitled, We Bid You Welcome. We bid you welcome, who come with weary spirit seeking rest, who come with troubles that are too much with you, who come hurt and afraid. We bid you welcome, who come with hope in your heart, who come with anticipation in your step, who come proud and joyous. We bid you welcome, those who are seekers of a new faith, who come to probe and explore, who come to learn. We bid you welcome, who enter this hall, this virtual hall, as a homecoming, who have found here room for your spirit, who find in this people a family. Whoever you are, whatever you are, wherever you are in your own personal journey, we bid you welcome.
My name is Reverend Kimberly Tomchek Carlson. It is my honor to serve as the Minister of Religious Education at the First Unitarian Society of Milwaukee. The story I have for you today is called The Rabbit Listened. It's by Corey Dorfeld. One day, Taylor decided to build something new, something special, something amazing. Taylor was so proud. But then, out of nowhere, things came crashing down. The chicken was the first to notice. Cluck, cluck, what a shame. I am so sorry this happened. Let's talk about it. Cluck, cluck. But Taylor didn't feel like talking, so the chicken left. Next came the bear. Grr, grr, how horrible. I bet you feel so angry. Let's shout about it. Grr, grr. But Taylor didn't feel like shouting, so the bear left. The elephant knew just what to do. Trump-da, I can fix this. We just need to remember exactly the way things were. But Taylor didn't feel like remembering, so the elephant left. One by one they came. The hyena. Let's laugh about it. Hee hee hee. The ostrich. Gulp. Let's hide and pretend nothing happened. The kangaroo. Tisk tisk, what a mess. Let's throw it all away. And the snake. Shh. Let's go knock down somebody else's. But Taylor didn't feel like doing anything with anybody, so eventually they all left until Taylor was all alone. In the quiet, Taylor didn't even notice the rabbit, but it moved closer and closer until Taylor could feel its warm body. Together they sat in silence until Taylor said, "Please stay with me." The rabbit listened. The rabbit listened as Taylor talked. The rabbit listened as Taylor shouted. The rabbit listened to Taylor as he remembered and laughed. The rabbit listened to Taylor's plan to hide, to throw everything away, to ruin things for somebody else. Through it all, the rabbit never left. And when the time was right, the rabbit listened to Taylor's plans to build again. "I can't wait," Taylor said. "It's going to be amazing." The end.
Friends, because of the unprecedented times in which we are living, we continue our pandemic practice of lighting the COVID candle for any of our church members who have had a loved one die, either from COVID or another cause. If you have had a loved one die during this time and would like the COVID candle lit for them during Sunday worship, please contact one of the ministers. I'm sorry to say that today we have a COVID candle. Eileen Teska's son-in-law's great uncle, Tunis Thalaker, died from COVID-19 on Wednesday evening, November 11th, Veterans Day. He was 96 years old and a veteran who lived in northern Wisconsin. Today, we light the candle in honor of Tunis Thalaker.
I invite you now to join me in a time of pastoral reflection and prayer, whatever language or frame may work best for you. We are in the midst of a holiday weekend, one which in many ways is emblematic of the months and the weeks that have preceded. Plans have been disrupted. traditions disrupted. Things that we would typically do are not possible to do. The simple act of being together face to face with people we care about, that are family to us, family of choice or family of blood relationship, whatever it might be, may not be possible for us. There is loss in this. For some of us, those losses may feel small. For others, they may loom quite large and be contributing to an ongoing sense of isolation. Wherever we find ourselves in that journey, I invite us now as a community to join our hearts together for a brief moment, to pause and hold not just ourselves, our own needs, wants, and hopes, but that of others, those who have gathered with us, those who we know we are connected to in community. Let us take a moment to open our hearts, our thoughts to all who are similarly navigating the needs of our time, the needs of this particular holiday weekend, together. Spirit of life, Spirit of love, that known by so many names and so many different traditions. Our hearts reach out. Our hearts reach out with the spirit of care and with the hope of healing, physical health and healing that we know is needed, that many are struggling with. We hold a bit of possibility in our hearts at the news that relief may be around the corner, still some months away, but nonetheless it feels now almost around the corner. We can see what the path forward might begin to look like. Even as that is true, we know that some time will still continue, in which uncertainty remains, restrictions remain, disruptions remain and continue. We offer love energetically out into the energetic field of our planet, of our universe, for all those that are feeling a sense of isolation, that are longing for connection and struggling to find it in these virtual times that we are in. May also struggling know that they are beloved and that they are held in the love of this community. We hold in our hearts all those elders who may not have seen children and grandchildren, little ones, for months now, who may be taking good and appropriate care of their health, but missing beloveds. We hold in our hearts all the little ones who are doing their very best with all the adjustments to schooling that are needed. Our little ones feel these disruptions too. And as resilient as they are, we know that they're also in their own way trying to figure out what this time that we're in means now and moving forward. We hold in our hearts, particularly on a holiday weekend, all of those that are going through this Thanksgiving time, this holiday, experiencing it for the first time without friends or family members that they may have lost this year or earlier. We know as beloved members of community, as individuals who are dear to one another, we know that love knows no limit. We know that love is not a finite quantity that needs to be rationed. We know that the small acts of caring that we might be able to engage in ripple out and touch the lives of others in ways that make a positive difference, that increase their capacity to keep going forward through these days. May we continue to hold one another deeply and well in our hearts. May we look for whatever opportunities there may be to bring alive this community's sense of love and caring for one another, trusting that no act is too small. No act of love is ever wasted. So we pray, so we hope, so we will be. Amen.
Good morning. My name is Paul Kozadowski, and I'm happy to be your worship associate today. Reverend Manish has asked me to share something he wrote for the collection, Bless the Imperfect, Meditations for Congregational Leaders. It's entitled Facing the Fear, Trusting Love. Every day, as leaders within a spiritual community, we must realize that our actions and inactions affect dozens, if not hundreds of lives. How do we prioritize the list of pressing needs? What do we have time to get to today? What will have to wait yet another day before the needed time emerges? Will those decisions mean that someone who needs care and support might not receive it today? Will we meet our fundraising and budgetary goals or fall short? Will someone leave our Sunday service feeling less welcome than they should? Will we have enough volunteers for our religious education classes? The possibility of failure abounds. We are engaged in a fallible human enterprise, but it is one that simultaneously transcends our finitude. Amidst the uncertainty, amidst the risk of failure, can we remember why we stepped forward? To make a difference in someone's life, to help build and create healthy community, to share our gifts and talents with the world around us, to be the best that we can be and bring out the best in others. Grounded in these intentions, it's never possible to fail. The world needs every bit of good that each one of us has to offer. Do what you can. Trust that gifts offered in love will be received in the spirit of love. Trust that what we are contributing to is far greater than any one of us. Trust that even when we do fall short, the good we're able to do matters greatly.
Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children, keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children, keep the circle whole. Circle round for freedom, circle round for peace, for all of us imprisoned, circle for release, circle for the planet, circle for each soul, for the children of our children, keep the circle whole.
As our holiday weekend draws to a close, I found myself appreciating with poignancy the story that we heard a bit earlier, the one with the young boy in need of solace, in need of comfort, and finding it in a rabbit, the rabbit who listened, the rabbit who lent its presence and nuzzled up against the boy. Oh, how my own heart yearns for the simplicity and the ordinariness of such interactions, the ability to be with a coworker or an acquaintance, a friend, somebody we consider family of choice or extended family members, to be with them in person and experience in that a shared laugh, a smile, a glance, maybe the warmth of a hug as we greet or depart, or a caring, friendly hand on a shoulder. Such ordinary, day in, day out interactions disrupted by the time that we're in, for very good public health reasons, but disrupted nonetheless. I found myself drawn to the writing of an academic by the name of Dr. Amy Banks this week. Dr. Banks, a former instructor at Harvard Medical School, and who's written many books, one of which is entitled Wired to Connect. In that particular book, she cites a 2006 study by Purdue University in which the authors of that study found that up to 25% of the individuals in their study indicated that they didn't have a single person, a single human being in their life that they felt close to. I mean, that's heartbreaking and astonishing, and also to a certain degree not surprising. What that points to is a level of societal loneliness and disconnection that we could call an epidemic of its own. Prior to the pandemic that we are currently in, there was already an epidemic level of loneliness and disconnection that many of us were navigating. Add on top of that, layer on top of that, the pandemic, a time of forced, imposed distance and separation and isolation, exacerbating a societal tendency, unaddressed need that was already there. Dr. Banks goes on to describe how we human beings are biologically wired for connection. We, in fact, need connection with other human beings. She, as a medical researcher, describes this in terms of the nervous system, and many of you who know biology better than I probably do, you already know all about this, the difference between the sympathetic aspect of the nervous system and the parasympathetic aspect. The sympathetic aspect reflecting that heightened activation level when we're in danger or in a crisis, all our inner reserves getting really amped up to deal with and confront something that feels threatening to us, versus the parasympathetic aspects of the nervous system, which in many ways are the exact opposite of that. It's gentler, calmer, grounded, stiller place of energy. And what Dr. Banks writes about is how we human beings, through positive and meaningful interactions with others, so not the interactions in which somebody is being unkind to us, uncivil to us, mean-spirited or angry to us, those types of interactions activate the sympathetic nervous system. They put us on high alert. The meaningful, positive, caring, affirming, loving interactions activate the parasympathetic aspects of the nervous system. They calm us down. They ground us. Rather than being on high alert, we feel affirmed. We feel seen or held in the regard of another. We feel like our own existence has worth, dignity, and meaning for others. And in that, we calm down. There's a calmness in that. In the calmness, in the gentleness, often possibilities expand for us. Our ability to show up as a loving and caring person for others is greater from the place of feeling cared for ourselves than from the heightened place when we're on high alert. We have greater capacity to show up as love and compassion as caring. We have greater capacity from the calmness and gentleness of the parasympathetic nervous system to look at complex life problems creatively, broadly, constructively. Ideas come to us that we might not have otherwise had. Possibilities, solutions, ways forward. We're able to think about the more complex problems of our life and feel like we have capacity to engage with them. This activation of the parasympathetic nervous system, grounded in positive human connection, can be from our closest and dearest loved ones, from a best friend, from a spouse. Doesn't have to be. Even a new or burgeoning connection, somebody we're just starting to get to know, if in that interaction there's a sense of mutual regard, mutual care, acceptance, affirmation, even a relatively newer connection can have all the same positive benefits for us as a human being. As such, community is absolutely and intrinsically one of the places where we can find positive human connection of all kinds, whether it is a newer connection or over time, a deeper connection that has had time to grow and flourish. Human community is a place where we can find that. Now, just as Dr. Banks notes, not every one-on-one interaction evokes the best potential, the best possibility of those interactions. Some interactions put us on high alert. Other one-on-one interactions ground us, calm us, center us, calm the inner energy. The same is true in community. And in the reflection on how this works in community, I turned to the wisdom of one of my favorite poets, Mark Nepo. He's a fellow Michigander and just a brilliant writer. I adore his way of thinking and writing about things, his sense of poetry. His 2018 book, entitled More Together Than Alone, is just a gorgeous study of human community and the best of human potential within community. I highly encourage us as Unitarian Universalists, if you have the time or the interest to dig into this book, it's a stunningly beautiful articulation of what human community can be. In this book, More Together Than Alone, Mark Nepo draws on a historical situation in the year 1857. Imagine, if you will, the London Philological Society. Now, we're in the 19th century, the mid-19th century, the esteemed London Philological Society, devoted to the nature of language and linguistics, is meeting to embark on a project, the project being the eventual development of what would become the Oxford English Dictionary, the first publication of its kind, capturing how the English language is used, providing definitions for words. Such a project had never been undertaken before, and the members of the Philological Society had an important decision in front of them. Do they prescribe how words are used? Prescribed. Tell us how words are used. This is the correct, this is the appropriate way to use the word. Or do they describe? Description, not the same as prescription. Description, capturing how people actually already are using particular words. So embedded in this is a multiplicity of definition, right? That's how we wind up with a word that has 5-part definitions, and often it can be very different, nuanced usages depending on the context. It also implies that the usage of language evolves and changes over time. It is not fixed. The esteemed members of the Philological Society make the decision to draw on the concept of description and not prescription. And in drawing on description, very intentionally so, they draw on and coin a term. Use determines meaning. How words are actually being used determines meaning. Usage varies, and usage evolves and changes over time. Thus was born the Oxford English Dictionary, which is, by definition, revised and updated continuously to capture the evolving uses of the English language and specific terms within it. So Mark Nepo draws on this historic example and points out that this tendency between prescription and description exists within human community. So think of our own Unitarian Universalist communities, which are incredibly diverse, very broad. We have our 7 Unitarian Universalist principles. I refer to them as ethically oriented principles. That's how they read and feel to me. Intentionally, by design, leaving room, expansive room, for those who arrive at our doors, metaphoric shores, if you will, to then bring with them interpretations of those ethical principles for their own personal life that fit and work for them, and the openness for folks to draw on scriptural traditions, should they so choose, theological traditions, should they so choose, philosophical traditions, ethical traditions, nonfiction writing, poetry, art, music, painting, drawing, sculpture, any and every creative human expression that we might want to draw on in interpreting and living into our 7 principles is permitted for each of us by design, by intentionality. So then look what happens after that. We often come into UU community, and I've been a UU Unitarian Universalist for 20 to 25 years. I'm sure many of you have been in our faith tradition even longer than that. It's not uncommon in Unitarian Universalism for us to then begin prescribing for one another. This is how, let me tell you, this is how you should be living into Unitarian Universalism. By the way, it often mimics how I've come to understand it personally. But my personal understanding, I'm not going to take that and prescribe it for you, irrespective of whether that prescription fits for you or not. This is often a root of conflict in many of our UU communities, this tendency to become prescriptive. Here's what Mark Nepo has to say about this tendency to become prescriptive in community which inherently holds this necessary and most beautiful potential for human connection, the potentiality that we yearn for and need. We interject into it a prescriptive tendency. Here's what Mark Nepo says about that. He says, history proves that we oppress each other. Wow, look at the strength of that language. We oppress each other when we prescribe how other human beings should live together and how human communities should function. We oppress one another when we do that. He goes on to say, and we give each other tools. We empower each other when we describe with respect and reverence how other human beings actually live together and how human communities actually work. From Mark Nepo's understanding, the prescription, the telling, the imposing on others of our own wisdom that we've arrived at, becoming a form of oppression, whereas the act of description, which often involves multiplicity, just as the Oxford English Dictionary contains multiplicity of definitions for any one word, the description creates tools, creates expansiveness, it creates empowerment, a multiplicity of ways of living into a thing. I found this very compelling, quite intriguing actually. And I thought, well, I've been a UU for a couple decades now. What would it look like if I, as one Unitarian Universalist, wanted to arrive at a description, not a prescription, a description of Unitarian Universalist community? Here are my notes on that. Let's see. And this is my personal sense. I invite you to engage in this exercise yourself and ask yourself as you do, are you prescribing for others or are you describing? It's subtle, but such a critical difference. These are my notes on description. You can see if it resonates with you. And if it does, great. If not, take it as one UU's perspective. I have a 4-part definition. Unitarian Universalist community is a place where, part 1, human diversity of experience and perspective is centered. I already noted, we're inherently a broad-based, permission-giving tradition. Find the specifics that speak to you, that bring alive our principles, and draw on that languaging, art, music, theology, philosophy, ethics, whatever it is, draw on the thing that speaks to you and bring it. That is inherently a highly diverse tradition. Human diversity of experience and perspective is centered. That means that also intrinsically no one thread or strand is centered exclusively. We rotate. We take turns at highlighting different ways of stepping into our tradition, never holding one as exclusive or normative for everybody else. That's my part one. Human diversity of experience and dignity is centered. My part two to that definition, Unitarian Universalist community is a place where love is made manifest. This is one of the things that's very near and dear to my heart. We love the diversity of what we can draw on and bringing alive our own sense of what it means to be human. And while that is often rooted in discussion and debate in the realm of ideas and in artistry and art craft, we take all of that, we channel all of the wisdom and strength that we derive from any and all of that, and we channel it into action, into embodiment. Love is made manifest. We show up. We show up, making a difference in one another's lives, in the life of our community, and the broader world beyond that. So important, such an important part of our tradition. We've always done that. Love is made manifest amidst us. My third part, Unitarian Universalist community is a place where mistakes are made, or I don't really like the word mistakes all the time. Things are imperfect. We don't get things perfectly right. Here's the beauty of that. We know we human beings grow and evolve the most from the things we get wrong, that don't click, that we sometimes refer to as a mistake, something that didn't quite work out. Those experiences impel us towards self-examination and evolution and growth on a personal level. And through that, through having others companion us in a community, in a communal kind of way too, it provides opportunities for learning and growing beyond who we are today. Unitarian Universalist community, my part three, is a place where mistakes are made or we live into our commitments imperfectly. My final and part four, Unitarian Universalist community is a place where nothing is static. Look at the 200 plus year history of who we are. We are a dialectical tradition, inherently so. We have always been that way. Originally, part and parcel of the New England Puritan tradition, liberal, progressive Christians emerge in dialectic with Puritanism, breaking off, forming a separate denomination. The liberal Christians in dialectic over time with what emerged as a mystical sense of transcendentalism, unmediated experiences of the divinity within us and in nature, in the world around us. Dialectic movement, evolution, learning and growth. That transcendentalist iteration over time, another 10, 20, 30 years, interacting with concepts of religious pluralism. Well, if divinity exists inside us and the world all around us, that must be true across philosophies, ethics, theologies, and religions. We begin to arrive at pluralistic understandings in dialectic with the transcendentalism, that religious pluralism over time, another generation or so, being in dialectic with even more expansive understandings of humanity. What might it be like to develop a universal sense of religion that could appeal to anyone, spirituality, ethics, framing that anyone could step into, captured in the humanist movement of the early 20th century, and on and on. We have never been a static tradition. We are a movement that has constantly been in movement. And that dialectic represents our growth and learning and evolution. We have never turned any one of the waypoints, any one point of wisdom, into an idol that we then look over our shoulder towards the past, worshiping. Rather, we take the wisdom that we've encountered along the way, the best of it, maintaining the best, but ever committed to our dialectic pattern of constant evolution and growth and learning. It's a beautiful thing. My four-part definition of Unitarian Universalist community. Take it if it's helpful, and more importantly, exactly as our tradition intends, come up with your own. If you had to define a come up with a description, not a prescription. That's the critical piece I'd invite you to really hold and be in profound self-reflection around. How would you describe what actually is without prescribing for others what they should be doing? You know, this potential of community, as Mark Nepo says, that we can wind up hurting and oppressing one another. No doubt. That is one of the failings of community throughout time. And yet when we are attentive to that possibility, careful that that is not what we are trying to do and live into and bring alive, my gosh, the power and potential of who we can be, the way that we can show up, the power of love to touch the lives of others, to be a force of transformative good through the simple act of affirming the dignity of another, allowing them to feel that, absorb that, calm down whatever it is that they're holding, needing to navigate in their own life, being present to them in that way, allowing them to then step into the most expansive possibilities that their own life may hold. This is the promise and potential of Unitarian Universalism. Let us live into the healing power of community, the transformative power of community, each of us, to the best of our ability. May it be so.
I'll tell you a secret that I've learned. Nobody knows everything. We all get caught up in what we think and believe it's the truth. But mostly we don't have the answers, and life can feel like an unsteady boat drifting away from the land, making us feel alone. It is love that will carry you home. It is kindness that holds back the storms around you. It is patience living right beside the doubt. The only truth is what we do with right now. Something I finally come to realize is everyone has to compromise, and we can't do it all at the same time. It just doesn't work. We can't spend our whole lives worrying about things out of our control. Then we find that life was built for change, and we have to let it all go. It is love that will carry you home. It is kindness that holds back the storms around you. It is patience
Thank you. Thank you all so much for your generosity. Pledges are the core of our church's spiritual practice of generosity. We're also thankful for additional gifts to support our ministry. And we thank the folks out there who are appreciating this online ministry and supporting it by texting 73256 with the message "Give to UU" $, or giving on our website. Your gifts help us continue to provide this ministry. We also share the plate with an organization each month. In November, our Share the Plate recipient is Zao Milwaukee Church. Since 2016, Zao Milwaukee has been serving as a Jesus-rooted, justice-centered, and radically inclusive church of diverse folks, explicitly affirming the life, value, and worth of LGBTQIA people and the movement for Black lives. You can go to their website and give with the note "Share the Plate" from FUSM. You can see all these options on your screen now, and they will live on in the YouTube comments section of this video after worship is over. Thank you so much for giving right now or when you come back later. Your support keeps us and our community partners going. Thank you.
Dear ones, as we prepare to depart from this time together, go forth knowing that you are held in the spirit of love. In this community's virtual, long distance, but nonetheless real, loving embrace. Those tendrils of connection endure. They are tangible. They matter. I offer to you as our benediction these words by the Reverend Wayne Arneson. He writes, "Take courage, friends. The way is often hard. The path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone. You are held in community. Go forth until we are together again."
We are going, heaven knows where we are going. We know within, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Whoa, yeah, yeah. Whoa, yeah, yeah. Whoa, yeah, yeah. Whoa, yeah, yeah.